Welcome to Salesforce Security. We're very excited to have you here with us today, so let's go ahead and get started. In this first section of the course, we'll go over user management. Let's go over what you can expect in this section of the course. This section will include information on how to set up a user. We'll go over user details, such as profiles and roles, various user management settings. We'll discuss email domains, verification links and emails. We'll briefly touch on passwords and account verification. In a later section of the course, we'll dive further into passwords and password policies. Then we'll review licenses, both user licenses and feature licenses. We'll also briefly look at an overview on permission set licenses, as we'll also go into permission sets in more depth later on in the course. I'll show you on how to access the login history page to view user login attempts. This comes in handy when troubleshooting user login issues. And lastly, how to reset a password for users. Then we'll end this user management section with a learning activity, providing you with an opportunity to practice configuration hands-on and also a quick quiz to test your knowledge on the topics discussed. So let's start with the basics of user setup. What is a user? A user is anyone who logs into Salesforce. Users are employees at your company, such as sales representatives and managers who need access to the company's records. Every user in Salesforce has a user account. The user account identifies the user, and the user account settings determine what features and records the user can access. Each user account contains at least the following: username, email address, user's first and last name, license. So just a quick overview, the user license determines the level of access to the org and what profile can be selected for a particular user. A feature license, such as Salesforce CRM Content User, provides access to additional features that are not included with the user license. Additional feature licenses can be assigned for items such as marketing, knowledge, or mobile user, aka the Salesforce app. And so another required value on the user account is their profile. This determines their access to objects in addition to what privileges they have. Role is marked as required but does not need to be selected to create a new user. The role, for example, could be the individual's title within their company. And last but not least, localization. This will include locale, time zone, language, and currency. User list. From setup, type users in the quick find box, then select users. The user list shows all the users in your organization. From the list, you can create one or more users, reset passwords for selected users, view a user's detail page by clicking the name, alias, or username, edit a user's details, or log in as any user if the system permission is enabled, or if a user has granted you system administrator login access. Once a user is established, administrators can assist with resetting passwords, unlocking, or freezing user accounts on individual user records. Users are permanent records that cannot be deleted. Instead, the options are to deactivate the users or to freeze the users. Usernames. Each user has both a username and an email address. The username must be formatted like an email address and must be unique across all Salesforce organizations. Usernames are unique across Salesforce organizations globally, therefore cannot be reused. Users can use their real email address if they wish, as long as their email address is unique across all Salesforce orgs. So the key takeaway is that users must have a username in the format of an email address, but they do not have to use a real email address. If you get a duplicate username error, check if the username is already in use in your production, trial, or sandbox orgs. Deactivate or change the username for the user record, then create your account with your desired username in your production org. If you're unable to change or deactivate a username, contact your Salesforce admin for help. If you're unable to locate the org where the username is already in use, try a different username to create your account. If you change a username, a confirmation email with a login link is sent to the email address associated with that user account. If an organization has multiple login servers, sometimes users can't log in immediately after you change their usernames. The change can take up to 24 hours to replicate to all servers. User licenses. A user license determines which features the user can access in Salesforce. For example, you can allow users access to standard Salesforce features and chatter with the standard Salesforce license. But if you want to grant a user access to only some features in Salesforce, you have a host of licenses to choose from. For example, if you have to grant a user access to Chatter without allowing them to see any data in Salesforce, you can give them a Chatter-free license. Feature licenses. Feature licenses entitle users to access additional features not included with their user license. For example, the marketing user, Salesforce CRM content user, and so forth. Feature licenses can be enabled for each user if available. So you'll need to check the list of feature licenses for use through their status, total allocation, the number used, and number remaining. Permission set licenses. A permission set can be used to assign users specific settings and permissions to use various tools and functions. Permission set licenses gradually grant users access to features that are not included in their user licenses. To utilize a permission set license, you will also need to check and see the permission set license's status, total allocation, number used, and number remaining. Profiles. Profiles determine what users can do in Salesforce. They come with a set of permissions which grant access to particular objects, fields, tabs, and records. Each user can only have one profile. Select profiles based on a user's job function. The standard user profile is the best choice for most users. Do not give a user a profile with more access than the user needs to do their job. You can grant access to more items that the user needs with a permission set. Roles. Roles determine what users can see in Salesforce based on where they are located in the role hierarchy. Users at the top of the hierarchy can see all the data owned by users below them. Users at lower levels cannot see data owned by users above them or in other branches unless sharing rules grant them access. Roles are optional, but each user can only have one. If you have an org with many users, you may find it easier to assign roles when adding users. However, you can set up a role hierarchy and assign roles to users at any time. Roles are only available in Professional, Enterprise, Unlimited, Performance, and Developer editions of Salesforce. Alias. An alias is a short name to identify the user on list pages, reports, or other places where their entire name doesn't fit. By default, the alias is the first letter of the user's first name and the first 4 letters of their last name. However, the alias can be changed or edited to however the user would like their name displayed. Email. Users can have the same email address across organizations. If you change a user's email address and the Generate New Password and Notify User Immediately setting is enabled, or if you change a user's email address and the Generate New Password and Notify User Immediately setting is disabled, Salesforce sends a confirmation message to the updated email address. Before the new email address is active, the user must click the link provided in the message. If a user changes their own email address, Salesforce sends a confirmation message to the user's new email address and a verification code to the old address. When the user receives the confirmation email, they must enter the verification code to finish updating their email address. If you change a user's email address and the Generate New Password and Notify User Immediately setting is enabled, Salesforce sends a password reset link to the new email address. Before the new email address is active, the user must create a new password. You can restrict the domain names of users' email addresses to a list of specific domains. Any attempt to set an email address with another domain results in an error message. The email domain allow list can be enabled on the user management settings page in Setup to restrict the allowed email domains. The allowed email domain page in Setup can be used to specify the email domains that can be used. Passwords. Users must change their password the first time they log in. A password can be reset by a user or an administrator. Unlike a user, administrators can reset passwords for multiple users. Users can reset passwords themselves by clicking on the Forgot Password link on the login page. Administrators can individually reset a password by accessing a user record in Setup. After a Reset Password button is clicked, an email will be sent to the user's registered email with a link to the page where the password can be changed. An administrator can reset user passwords for multiple users on the user page in Setup. To reset for multiple users, select the checkbox next to each user and then click Reset Password button. In the User Details section, the admin can see how many failed login attempts the user has. The counter will reset to 0 if the user gets locked out. Login link. Users can only use the login link in the sign-up email once. If a user follows the link and does not set a password, you, as the admin, have to reset their password before they can log in. The account verification link emailed to new users expires after 7 days, and users must change their password the first time they log in. Users who click the account verification link but don't set a password need an admin to reset their password before they can log in. User List View. The User List View shows the different buttons available, including New User, Reset Passwords, and Add Multiple Users. It will also display if the user is active or not active, and the profile assigned to each specific user. How to add a user to your Salesforce org. Keep in mind that the red vertical bars indicate required fields. So from Setup, enter users in the Quick Find box, then select Users. Click New User to add a single user, or click Add Multiple Users to add up to 10 users at a time. Enter each user's name, email address, and a unique username in the form of an email address. By default, the username is the same as the email address, but you can overwrite this. Select the user license you want to associate with the users you create, as the license determines which profiles are available for each user. Select a profile, and then select Generate Passwords and Notify User via Email checkbox to email a login name and a temporary password to each new user, and then click Save. Add multiple users. You can quickly add up to 10 users at a time to your organization. Your Salesforce edition determines the maximum number of users that you can add. All users will have the same license assigned. The username will be the same as the email address when adding a user with this method. Individual user records will need to be edited after creation to choose further details. The top portion of the screen, when using the Add Multiple Users function, will show the number of licenses still available. So from Setup, enter users in the Quick Find box, then select Users. Click Add Multiple Users. If multiple user license types are available in your organization, select the user license to associate with the users you plan to create. The user license determines the available profiles. Specify the information for each user. To email a login name and a temporary password to each new user, select Generate Passwords and Notify User via email, then click Save. To specify more details for the users that you've created with this method, edit individual users as needed. Login history. The login history page provides information on past login attempts to the org. The table shows various details about several login attempts. Each attempt is in a single row, and details about it are under columns. Login status. The status column will indicate success or reason for failure to log in, such as an invalid password. The login history is displayed as a list view, which can be viewed as a related list on a user record or for all users. The maximum record size is no more than 20,000 login records for the past 6 months. It can be saved in a file format and downloaded as a CSV or a gzip file. The login history feature is essential for troubleshooting. It is useful to troubleshoot why a user cannot log in. The API access record and API access logins will be included in all login options. The login history will also display login time, source IP, login type, browser, platform, and application used. How to edit users. To change users' details such as a user's profile, role, or contact information, edit the user account. From Setup, enter users in the Quick Find box, then select Users. Click Edit next to the user's name and change the settings as needed. Don't forget to click Save. Users can change their personal information after they log in. To complete the setup process, the following steps need to be done on the user's end. An account verification link is sent via email, is clicked, a password is created, and last, a security question is created. So now we'll get into the learning activity portion of this course. There will be 2 learning activities for you to complete. In this first learning activity, we'll practice creating a new user record. For the first and last name, we'll use John Smith. The alias will auto-populate to J. Smith. For the email, use a functioning email address in order to receive notifications. For the username, choose a unique email formatted username of your choice. For the nickname, create any nickname. For the role, we'll go ahead and select CEO. For the user license, we'll select Salesforce. For the profile, we'll use standard user. And for feature licenses, let's go ahead and click the checkbox for marketing user and flow user. Make sure to click the checkbox for generate new password and notify user immediately, and then go ahead and click Save. Now we'll move on to the second learning activity, where we will practice downloading the login history. Enter login history in the quick find box. Click login history, then we'll select the CSV file, all logins, and click the download now button. Once downloaded, we'll go ahead and open the CSV file. We can open the CSV file, and you, as the admin, have the ability to manipulate and utilize the data as needed. This now brings us to the quiz portion of Section 1 on user management. So in this next section of the course, we will go over organization security, unlocking, unfreezing, deactivating users, delegated administration, login access policies, IP ranges, troubleshooting, and then we'll also practice through learning activities and take a look at some quiz questions. Here are some additional resource links for learning. This concludes Section 1 on user management in the Salesforce security course.